Welcome back to Do More with Your Money. On today's episode, I'm joined by Rocky Lalvani. Rocky serves as a chief profitability advisor for business owners, where he teaches them how to ensure they get paid and make profit a priority. As a certified profit first professional, he implements Mike Michalowic's profit first system. Rocky, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise with our listeners.
Thank you for having me, TJ. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to talk to you because we talked about it a little bit before we went live, but looking at how you kind of have a two-prong business system where you're focusing on helping business owners become more profit first, and I love to dive deep into that, but then also the back end of how do you live a life with purpose. So I'm really excited to touch on both those topics today.
Yeah, excited to share what I've learned.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit first about just your why, how you got to where you are today, why you chose to specialize in working with business owners and implementing that profit first mentality.
So, as a kid, um, looking backwards, it's easy to see this. Back then I had no clue. Two things: entrepreneurial, like I always wanted to make money, and even as a kid, I made pretty good money back in the day. Just hustling, selling stuff, working, and all of those types of things. And the second thing is I was pretty much of a tech geek. So, everyone might have gotten the first iPhone. I got the first Apple IIe computer back in the day. And one of the things that I learned on there was a program called VisiCalc. It was the precursor to Lotus, precursor to Excel. So I'm a spreadsheet geek. Like in my life, everything comes down the spreadsheet. So I wanted to build wealth. All I did was do the math. Okay, if I save this much at this much time with this much compounding, I'm guaranteed to have success in life. And so that kind of set me on the path of to do it right. And of course I did what I was told, go to college, come out, and then I wanted to be entrepreneurial coming out of college, but I had no idea how to start a business. I had no idea how to sell. Hey, I can build you a spreadsheet. And I had no idea that it had value, right? Fast forward, it's like, oh my God, this thing has tremendous value. You have tremendous skills, but I didn't realize how I could benefit the marketplace. And honestly, I got good jobs and I got paid well, and life was really good for a long time. And then I'm like, okay, I got the money. It was supposed to make me happy. That didn't work out. So now what? Right. And so that just kind of started this whole self development exploration and so forth. And as part of that, I was like, what do I really want to do? But in the meantime, this whole time, like as I'm building wealth, I couldn't understand why more people weren't building wealth and why they struggled with money. And so I started to come across all of this information around money mindsets, um, money psychology, behavioral psychology around money. And most of this stuff you think, money's been around forever. And yet the study of how we behave with money is really relatively a young profession in the sense of things. And so that really helped me to understand why people struggled so much with money. So then I was like, look, building wealth isn't hard. Let me go teach them how to do this. I learned a lesson. Warren Buffett already told you this, but I didn't listen to Warren this time. I don't listen to Warren a lot of times, which is why he's rich and I'm not that rich. Uh, he goes, nobody wants to get rich slowly. Everyone wants to get rich this weekend. And so even though I was trying to build this whole thing around teaching people how to build wealth, because I could guarantee you can be a millionaire pretty much in 10 years, it didn't have traction. And then through this whole thing, somehow I got this introduced to this concept that business owners weren't looking at their financials. Now, I have an MBA, I have a Bachelor of Science in Economics. I understand all of that stuff. I just assumed business owners went into business because they loved business and they understood business. Turns out business owners go into business because they love what they do, and accounting isn't on the list. It's like, wait a minute, you're a business owner and you're struggling with finances and you don't know what to do. That is something that I can help with. And that is something that people are willing to get help with. and they don't expect overnight success. They have a different mentality of, look, I know it's going to take time. I'm willing to do this. And so that's how I ended up with Profit First. Profit First is nothing more than what you've been told your whole life. Pay yourself first. Set money aside, separate it, and give it a purpose. Mike just took those principles of personal finance and adapted them to business finance. So I was already living that. Like, that's just the way I do things. And so that became the perfect combination for me and market acceptance and to build a business around it. So that's how we ended up with today.
Awesome. No, I love that, and I that resonates a lot with me. I mean, I feel like now I did read or I listened to Profit First years ago, although I'm a little hazy on some of it, so I'll be interested to hear more. But I have definitely taken a profit first mentality with myself, kind of never like upgrading my lifestyle more than my means could afford, always living below my means, not reinvesting in my business unless I had that ability to do so, which also I feel has limited me a little bit in some growth aspects as well. So I'd love to hear about how you balance that with business owners as far as like reinvesting in the business versus paying yourself. But yeah, I guess just talk to me about that and how you go about like actually implementing this with the people you serve.
So Profit First is literally the first step of what we do. We do so much more. Um, but think about this, whether it's your personal finance or your business finance, right? It's the same concept. So in personal finance, they tell you to pay yourself first. So what do? You sign up for the 401k. Maybe you have money coming out after tax going into some sort of a savings program or other types of programs. Well, it's the same thing for business owners. You said you were going to be profitable. Why don't you set up a separate bank account called Profit? And every time you get a dollar, put a percentage in your profit account. Because the problem is for most business owners go, I'll be profitable when, right? They
Mm,
don't go, "Hey, profit's a habit. I said I was gonna be profitable. Why am I not profitable?" It's like the people who say to me, "I'm gonna go to the gym when I lose weight." I'm like, yeah, tell me how that worked out." It's the same concept. I'll be profitable when, or in personal finance, I'm gonna save, when I get married. Oh, I'll save when we have the first kid. You're not gonna do it. Like, it's behavioral, and it goes back to what I said. This is all behavioral money mindsets. And so all Profit First does is say, hey, money came in the door, a certain amount is profit, a certain amount is to pay the owner, because you, the business owner, deserve to get paid a fair salary for the work you do. Truth is, most business owners underpay themselves. And then business owners don't get a paycheck a lot of times, and they take money out of the company, which means you owe taxes. So you actually need to set money aside for the taxes so that you can stroke those checks. And then what's left becomes your operating expenses. Now you have to constrain your spending in your business, just like you talked about lifestyle inflation in your personal life. We have to constrain our spending and live within what that amount is. And I think too often American culture is spend more than you make. And you wonder why everyone's stressed and depressed and burnt out. It's because you have no freedom. And you don't have freedom because you put yourself in prison. So that, I think, is the big part of it. You asked me a question. How do I know when to reinvest in my business? Now, you're a financial planner guy, right?
yes.
Okay. When people come to you and they say, I'm going to invest, and you find investments for them, do they expect a return?
Yes.
Yes. So when you go invest in your business, do you expect a return?
Yes.
Really? Because how many people have signed a contract with themselves when they invest in their business to get paid back on that investment? I think the answer is one in a thousand, one in a
Mm,
million. If you're going to make an investment in your business, I want to see a return. Let's define it, let's measure it, and show me that it's occurring.
got you.
Because for most people, it's not. I felt, oh, this is going to help me. Sure, it is. Just like the Thigh Master was going to help you. That
Right.
didn't work out either, right? So, I mean, these principles are what I call universal principles. So we're not in the same city, but you have gravity where you are, right? Kind
Yes.
of the same as gravity where I am. And it doesn't matter where we are, there's gravity and it's a principle and we can measure it. Certain things in life are true principles. And what we talk about is those true principles with money, in business, in your personal life. It doesn't matter because it's the same principle and it works everywhere. And that's how you know it's true. This isn't get rich quick schemes. You don't have to buy software to do this. You don't have to do anything special. Everyone can do this, whether it's personal or business.
So I guess what I was trying to ask is also, I feel like a lot of times business owners think that, the best return on their investment is within their business, like that they have material involvement in. And so maybe sometimes they're reluctant to invest outside of their business because maybe they think like, let's say stock market has a 7% expected return over the long term, whatever it is. And they feel that they can do a lot better than that, but maybe they're not tracking those metrics. And like you said, actually justifying that. And that's why I was wondering, like, how do you balance those two things?
So, two things. Okay. One, you have to track it, you have to measure it. Show me that your business is actually doing better than the stock market. And then maybe it is a good idea to invest in your business. But you're a financial planner. If somebody comes to you and they want to invest and they say, I want to invest all my money in one stock, what would you tell them?
I would say that it's a lot of risk, and the downside is probably not worth the upside if it's a large portion of your net worth.
So, why is that any different? Universal principle when I do it in my business.
I guess
Okay.
people have like a behavioral bias that they're more overconfident with something that they're materially involved in.
And they are. But let's face facts, right? So I had the Apple IIe when I was a kid. It cost me $2,000. The thing had 4K in memory. Can you imagine that?
Dude, that's a lot.
Today, an iPhone costs a fraction of that and has like 4 zillion things of memory. But here's my question. When the iPhone came out, how many businesses went out of business? Kodak went out of business, essentially, right?
Right.
Um, I used to have a Garmin in my car to tell me how to get places. That went out of business. Um, so now I got rid of the camera. I got rid of that. I got rid of a whole bunch of Palm Pilot crashed not long after that, right? And so did BlackBerry. What all of these were really big, successful companies with a long history, and overnight, through no fault of their own, or maybe through fault of their own, they didn't see the future. They got wiped out. Why do you think your business isn't going to get wiped out? And let's talk about why your business is. So, I'm in the construction business. We're always going to have construction. Yes, we are. But what if you get sick? Does
Mm,
your business survive when you're sick? Okay. What if we go into a recession? Do you have enough cash in your business to survive the recession? Right?
right.
What if next door another builder opens up and he's 10% cheaper than you and his designs are better than you? Now what? What if who knows? There's a million things that happen in life, right? COVID happens. It's a risk reward situation. I tell business owners remove cash from your business and build your safety system, because when you know, like if I'm a business owner and I know that all of my personal needs and my retirement finances are over there and they are secure, I know I can do a lot more in my business. I know I can take more risks. I know I can try different things. I'm not so worried that I've got to make sure that everything's perfect. And so, because I know I built a pile of money somewhere else. And so that's basic risk reward. So even in personal finance, right? If
Right.
I've got a ton of cash at home, I can look at my boss and go, screw you. I don't need money for the next 6 months. Like, I'm not putting up with your crap. That's the
Yeah.
freedom that we talk about.
No, that's great. The ability to walk away is a huge, huge thing. No, that makes a ton of sense, and I love that framework of also like tracking and saying like if you do have a return on investment that exceeds an expected return for maybe your diversified investments, and that's okay. But you need to track that and justify, because if not, you're just going to burn capital in your business. And now, my other question in that same vein is, are there some businesses though where the margins just aren't great and maybe you're in a bad type of business, or is that a different issue?
There are not some businesses like that. There are a lot of businesses like that. We call them hobbies, okay? The business owner isn't getting paid, and that is very much normal in many businesses, and they're barely taking any money out, and they're working harder than they ever worked. Like, yeah, that happens a lot. And that is an issue. And they keep thinking, "Oh, this one more investment or more marketing or another uh, their usual thing is if I just had more sales." And you look at their numbers, and that's really what we do. We look at their business model and we go, "You could have $100 trillion in sales and you'd still lose money." Because your business model doesn't actually show that you're going to be profitable. And I think that happens a lot more often than you'd imagine. A lot of people hear all these success stories. Oh, I'm selling millions of dollars in my e-commerce store. You don't hear the behind the scenes story. I don't have any cash and I have to keep putting money into my company, even though our sales are $3 million. It's because the e-com platforms take so much money, the shipping company takes so much money, the credit card company takes so much money, and then you have to buy your materials, and then your marketing crushes you. And when it's all said and done, we haven't even covered your overhead. You're running negative and you're bleeding one cut at a time, and you don't realize it because you didn't do the math.
No, that makes a ton of sense. There's a focus on revenue. I always hear, business owners will talk about how much revenue they're generating, which is great. That
Yeah.
can be a good sign of metric. But at the end of the day, what matters is revenue minus expenses, right? Because that's
Yeah. How
actually
much
what,
did you keep?
yeah.
That's my question. And I even in real estate, you hear this. Oh, I got 100 doors. That's great. How much cash you have at the end of the month that's yours?
hmm
Well, most business owner can't even answer that question.
No, that's true. And I guess I take that for granted sometimes as somebody who also, obviously a financial planner. I like looking at cash flow projections and understanding. So I assume people look into those type of things and have like an idea sense of like a business model.
How long did it take Uber to be cash flow positive without money from financing and raising? Like, seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, that was my point too. I guess like obviously that's an extreme example with Uber, but like obviously they had to reinvest a ton and take outside capital to get to a point of profitability, right?
Why? Does Uber own any taxis?
No.
No. What are they investing capital in? Uber doesn't actually buy assets. Uber doesn't actually own real estate. They rent everything. You know who owns real estate? And this is really, if you guys don't know this, McDonald's is not a burger company. McDonald's is a real estate company that pays for real estate by selling you burgers.
Right.
Okay. That's what it is. And you have to understand they have a smart business model.
Mm,
They get it. And when you start looking at the really smart business models, you realize it's not what you think it is. Like Dave Ramsey. Oh, buy
yeah.
your houses for cash, right? I'm like, I couldn't for the life of me figure out how you do this. And I went down, I got trained by his people. I have his master coaching certificate, and I've learned a lot from Dave. When you look behind the curtain, you go, oh, Dave Ramsey owns a business that throws off so much excess cash flow that he takes his excess cash flow, removes it from his business, and buys real estate for cash. Huh. How about you tell everyone that, Dave? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Like,
I
he
don't love
doesn't,
that. Like, I
you
don't
know,
love when a influencer like that, and I'm not trying to I like a lot of Dave's messages and stuff, but yeah, I think it's like when you're saying the thing, I want the thing to be what you make the money off of, not necessarily like your business, which is like you said, like a normal person can't necessarily buy a house in cash. I mean, that's a nice principle to have. It's a nice ability to do that if you can do it. Although I think there's some other ways math wise that it may make more sense. But regardless, yeah, I don't love that. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's the problem. In the money space, there's a whole bunch of influencers, and you don't realize you have to watch what they're doing. You have to do what they do, not what they say. You know, and going back to Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett tells everyone invest in the S&P 500. Do you know how much money Warren Buffett has in the S&P 500?
Probably not. Well, I think he has a little bit, not much though. A little
So,
different than
does he?
well,
All right. I know he's got about 160 billion in cash,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Average
Little
investor.
different, and everyone else is like, "You can't hold cash. Cash is trash." Really? How come the wealthiest guy in the world sitting on 160 billion? Because he knows opportunities present themselves rarely. He doesn't have a fear of missing out, right?
Mhm.
He's got emotional control, and when an opportunity comes, when he gets the perfect pitch that he knows he can bunt and hit out of the park on a bunt,
Right.
that's when he's moving. But you have to have that self-control, and
Yeah.
I don't, you
No,
know?
I don't either, and I think that's why he probably recommends, like, an S&P 500 index because he knows that most people are not gonna have the discipline or the acumen to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we have 2 rules. We have rules for undisciplined people, 98% of people, and then we have the rules for the 2% who get rich. You decide, it's okay, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it, but
Yep.
understand who you are.
Absolutely, and that's the key, like you said, it all comes back to the behavioral side of things, and that's the thing I've learned the most as a financial planner is just seeing, um, people's different perspective on money. Basically, there's people with more money that feel less secure than people with less money, and it's just all relative to how you feel a lot of times, and also your upbringing with money. But so, talk to me a little bit more about then how do you ensure that somebody is, growing and creating a profitable business?
But you just do the math. I mean, literally, it's that simple. Um What we do is we look at a business in 3 different buckets. So the first part of the business is literally revenue generation. And we've got formulas that we can sit down and say, okay, if 100 people see my message, right? It costs me X dollars to get in front of 100 people. Out of that 100 people, maybe 10% of them are interested. Out of the 10% that are interested, 3 are going to buy. They're going to buy at this dollar cost, and they're going to buy this often, and that, like, you start doing that math and I can figure out revenue. I can work backwards and forwards through that equation to come up with, hey, this is the math equation for your business. This is how it works. This is where we need to spend on marketing. These are where you're not doing so well. And let's figure that out. So now I know how to generate revenue. The next thing that we look at is, now that you got revenue coming in, where is it all going? Where's the leaks? Where is all your money leaving your business? And is it appropriate for the business model you built? So again, if I have a business that sells $1 million, but I spend 1.1 million, I don't care that I now have a $2 million business. I'm still going to lose money. So it's understanding where is all the money going. And then once you figure that out, and now you have the margin that's left called profit, right? Now that we have our profit, where did our profit disappear? Because this is the thing nobody talks about,
Mhm,
right? Here is the dirty little secret of your P&L statement. Profit doesn't equal cash. What happens is, after the profit, you have to pay taxes.
mhm,
After the profit, you have loan principal payments. After the profit, you have accounts receivable, meaning you decided to be a bank and people owe you money and your cash is sitting in someone else's wallet, or it could be sitting in inventory on your shelf. So
mhm,
there's all of these other things where you're profitable, but there's no cash. And that's what happens. And so it's understanding that third bucket. Where did the cash disappear? And I'll be honest, there is no decent accounting report that shows that to you in a way that makes sense for most people. and in a way that you have to look at. What you literally have to do is take all these different disparate reports and come together and figure it out. And so that's part of what we do is we make that simple. We're like, "Hey, here's what's happening and here's what's going on and here's how to fix it." Because that's really what the question is. Okay, thank you for telling me what's wrong. How do I fix it? And that's where we bring our expertise in. This is, y- some businesses are simple and you don't have to worry about this, right? Hey, I go out and I sell something for $100 and it's my time. I don't have an office. I don't have employees. Okay, I made $100 today. I just got to pay taxes and life is easy.
Yeah.
That's not a s that's an easy way to figure that out, but as you get a more complex business,
Well, when would you
it
say, like, complexity increases? Is there, amount of employees? Is it at the type of business?
it's the business model. It's how you build did you build a simple or a complex business model is really what it comes down to. There are ways to do it and have large businesses that are simple. There's ways to have small businesses that are complex. It's up to you, like, and that's where I think it comes down to thinking through ahead of time. What do you want? And how are we going to build it? And how are we going to make it as simple as possible? Because the more complex it is, the more the leaks of cash
Right.
and the more you lose control.
Right. Yeah, and that segues into a good topic that I wanted to ask you about because, this is all great, right? Let's say we do get to a point where we are, profit first and we are kind of at a place where we really are thriving in our business. And kind of that next, page is like, what do you actually want to do, right? On because you have the purpose side of things as well. And I'd love to hear like is that something you work on with clients as well? I guess from transitioning to maybe once we got into a place that we really wanna be, like, now what?
So I made this comment earlier. You don't go to the gym after you lose weight. Okay. These are not like you build up all your money and then you figure it out. These go hand in hand from the beginning, and honestly, these are questions that you got to start thinking about at 16 and 18 years old because, at 16 years old, you're like, uh, I don't know what I want to do. So I'm going to go to college and it's 300 grand and I didn't talk to my parents and now I have these loans. You're done. Like, unless you come out and you make a ton of money, you're screwed. And so you really need to be upfront intentional of, hey, what do I want out of life? What do I enjoy doing? And that's really hard at 16, right? So I get it. But at all parts of life, you have to ask yourself, how much is enough?
Mhm.
And that's a question very few people can answer. And it's always more,
A little
which
bit more,
is
yeah.
not the right answer. The second thing is understanding health, right? We all follow the standard American diet. The acronym is SAD, right?
Okay. Not familiar.
Yeah. So if you're not going to maintain your health, then you can't work, right? Or you spend all your time working to make money and then spend all your money to get your health back. So you got to build your health. We've been talking this whole time about mindset and how we look at things. So creating the right mindsets in the way that you look at the world and so forth, having a plan.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, every company creates a budget. You probably create financial plans. Here's the number one thing about them. They're all wrong. And that's okay. But at least it's telling us the direction we're going, right? It's a good enough guess and we're going to keep changing it. The other thing is, as you go through life, I'm guessing what you want today is not what you wanted at 16,
Yeah.
right? So it's reevaluating every 5 to 10 years of life. What do I want for the next 5 to 10 years? And how is that taking me towards the ultimate goal? And what are my universal principles of how I'm going to live my life? because those don't change so much. Those are pretty much throughout the whole way in life. The way you approach them may change. So now we've got our health, we've got our wealth, we've got our mindset, we've cleared out our purpose. I don't think people realize you don't get as much time as you think you do. And unfortunately, you have no idea how much time you do get. So you have to live with an appreciation of time. And I think it's the one thing we all seem to value very little of. And so just getting clear on that. Um, and then the other thing is, look, even in today's job world, right? Relationships get you far, right? And the relationship with your spouse also gets you far too, or divorce costs you a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so taking the time to define these relationships, what is important to you? What kind of spouse do you want? What do they behave like? Um, because the reality is married couples do much better than non-married couples. It's just what the stats show.
Mhm.
And so building your relationships, and then what is your spirituality? I don't care what you believe. Are you living in congruence with what you say? Right? Whatever that may be, whatever belief system you have, A, did you pick it or was it put upon you?
Right.
Do you believe in it? And is it serving you? And have you spent any time thinking about it? Right. And I think for all of these different areas, I don't think anyone spends very much time thinking about any of them. Right. They're just kind of following a track that they got shoved on. And then one day they wake up and go, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah, it's easy to kind of fall into the trap of not auditing where your beliefs come from, and then following this path. And like you said, you wake up at a point and you're like, "Wow, I have been on autopilot," for this portion of time. And yeah, basically what I'm hearing you say is that health is number one. Um, Time, understand that that's your most valuable, non-renewable resource. You know, really regularly auditing that track that you're on in your life, understanding your core principles, and understanding, are you living in accordance with those principles? So that all like sounds great to me, and it's really helpful because I work with a lot of couples, typically in their 30s. Sometimes they're newly married, sometimes they have young children. But we're doing financial planning conversations, and a lot of it is how to live below your means, and kind of defer a little bit into the future. But at the same time, I want people to live for the present. So it's hard to find that balance.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Do all the couples that come to you make the same amount of money?
No.
Do they all seem to be relatively the same happiness?
I'd say there's a range.
There's a range. Is it a wide range or a narrow range?
It's hard because obviously, like, I don't get into a
Forget
super.
about the outliers. I'm not
Okay.
talking about the crazy ones.
Yeah,
The
that's a
vast majority,
not a huge
80% of them.
range, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. If 80% of the people are within a pretty tight range, and yet the amount of income that they have is pretty wide, money isn't the thing. And so if I'm making 150 grand a year and I look across the street and my neighbor's making 130, there's 20 grand you're wasting. Okay. That pure and simple. Because you can be just as happy as the neighbor across the street who's even happier than you because you're spending all your money trying to impress them.
Right.
Right. So there's 20 grand that you just blew on I don't know what. So there is margin. You just need to keep the margin. This is not about scarcity. It's just about living within your means and saying, wait, I have to spend $1,000 this month. Am I going to waste it over here or am I going to spend it on what I enjoy? Or because I wasted it over here, now I can't do what I enjoy. And so again, it's defining those things and being very clear. We love to take vacations. Great. Don't buy fancy cars.
Right.
Okay. I want fancy cars. Okay. What are you going to give up? And what don't you care much about? so that you can buy the fancy car. The problem is I walk into Costco, right up front, there's the 80-inch TV every time I go in. I need an 80-inch TV. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So most people go 80-inch TV, unhappy. They buy the 80-inch TV. How many of you go 80-inch TV? Oh, I want the fancy car. Yeah, fancy car. 80-inch TV, I want the vacation. 80-inch TV, I want the freedom to tell my boss to go screw himself. Whatever it is for you,
Yeah.
so that every time you have a decision, it's not 80-inch TV unhappy, it's 80-inch TV. This is what I really want. And when the 80-inch TV goes on sale one day, maybe we'll get it. I'm not telling you never to buy it. It's just
It's all trade-offs,
decide.
right? You can have
Yeah.
anything, but not everything. And so, like you said, if you're living in accordance with your principles, maybe autonomy is important to you. And in order to have autonomy, you need to forego these luxury purchases that, even though you can afford, it takes away from your core principle.
It does. And both spouses need to get on the same page. And I think you guys need to get on the same page before you get married, not after, because it's a lot harder then. Because I
Yeah.
know he'll change. Good luck. Um, it's getting on those because how many kids do you want? What are we going to do spiritually? What are your values? Oh, I want fancy sports car. I want a big house. Wow, that's going to be a struggle. Is there a way you can make that work? Yes or no? Because if you can't, you're going to have to make some compromises, right? And if you're not, then the two of you are constantly fighting against each other. And so I think that, in order to do that, though, you need to know what you want.
Right. That's the hardest part. I mean, do you have any kind of exercises that helps like certain questions that you work with clients as far as helping them figure out to get to that point?
I don't do the marriage stuff.
Okay.
It's hard enough just with whatever. The one resource that I have really found helpful for answering a lot of these questions, there's a book by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkavy called Living Forward. It's how to get out of the drift and start living the life you want. And so in there, they kind of tell you what the problem is, and they show you an easy way for you to build a life plan, and they give you examples of other people's so that you can look at 20 life plans and go, yes, no, no, maybe, definitely, hell no. And you can start then to build yours. And literally, you create your own buckets for all the things we've talked about and so much more. And then you say, okay, here's my eulogy.
Mm,
Now that
okay.
I know where I'm going, how do I work backward, right? The eulogy is never, here lies TJ, who owns 6 cars, had $1 million bank account, and worked for blah, blah, blah. No.
Right.
So, build, build to that and
Mhm.
just reverse engineer. Once you know where you're going, it is so easy to get there and to say no to everything that isn't taking you there.
No, I love that so much. Definitely been working on implementing that myself, as far as like building with the end in mind. I was kind of in a survival mode for a long time. Right? I just wanted to get to a point where I was like had a sustainable, business or self employment because I just really didn't enjoy working for somebody else. But I always like the technical side of financial planning. And so now it's kind of like I didn't almost think long enough, or I didn't like think big enough in the sense that like, well, I have like, me from 5 years ago kind of has everything I wanted. And so you always move that goalpost and it's like, well, now what? So
When are you going to stop moving the goalpost?
I'm
When
working
are
on
you going to
that.
be in touchdown land? When are you going to actually enjoy?
Yeah, I know. I know. I guess it goes back to, I'm sure like as far as obviously all of like your upbringing and what I saw with my dad, he came from he was a Dutch immigrant from with six brothers and sisters, and his dad died when he was a baby, so they were very poor, and he was always working, and he was always he was a self-employed plaster, and so I kind of had that drive of like I have to keep going kind of thing. But I'm working on slowing down. So
Well, that's good to hear.
So yeah, well, awesome. So talk to me a little bit more about, I guess, if business owners, um, at what point do they know they need help when it comes to the profit first?
So I think the question first is, how do you feel about the financial hat? Right? If you're good with the financial hat, then you can create your own financial systems that work for you. Profit first is just one tool in a toolbox. I would say, from what we know, about 5% of business owners are good with the financial hat. And so if you're not one of those, then figure out how to get help. And how to get help means maybe you read a book. Maybe you listen to a podcast. Maybe you take a course, right? There is no one perfect system. There's the system that works for you, right? Your diet and my diet might both be different, but they both might be healthy, right? Your workout might be different than mine, but yet they both get you a good physical body. So there isn't one perfect way to do this. There is the one that works for you in your business that's sustainable and that you can understand and implement. So that's the key. Get yourself a little bit of knowledge. And then, as you start to grow in your business and you want to start taking off the hats, because
Mm,
when you're a small business owner, you're the salesperson, you're the guy who cleans the bathroom, you're the one who does the bookkeeping, you're the one who does the marketing, you're the one who does the fulfillment. As you start taking off hats, take off the hats that you hate the most
mm.
and that are easiest to replace, because you're not going to do it. Right. So if you get rid of all of the negative in your life, then all that's left is positive. And it naturally happens. You start to have a business you love and you surround yourself with the experts that take over the parts you don't like to do. And and that's what you do. But
No, I love that.
you have to know that. You have to know what you like and what you don't. You have to face yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, that makes 100% sense. I recently read, Who Not How. I don't know if you're familiar with, Dan Sullivan, and, it was basically what you just said is really, there we go. There we go. We're on the same wavelength, and that was definitely something that I'm somebody who, I started my practice from scratch, profit first, but doing everything myself, and, um, there comes a point where you have to learn how to delegate, and I'm kinda going through that at the moment, but that really hit the nail on the head for me.
So here's the thing with delegation, right? Dan is very clear on what he wants a person to do, and then he trusts them to do it, but he verifies.
Mm,
So that is really what it comes down to. Be clear, let go, and then verify. And so here's the problem with most business owners. Can I tell someone told me the story. I
yes.
absolutely love it. When you're a business owner, you're like the coach of a team, right? So here you are as the coach of the team. Let's call this game football because I give you a ton of football analogies. By the way, I hate football. Actually, I mean, I don't mind drinking a beer and watching a game, but I really don't care.
Cool.
Um, the football coach is standing on the side of the thing because he's not on the field, right? It's about the end of the game. There's about a minute left to play. We're down by two. So we got to score. That's pretty simple and easy to understand, correct? He sends in the play. The quarterback goes back. He's about to throw the ball. The coach looks downfield. His receiver's not downfield. He did the play wrong. So what's the coach do? I'm going to save the day. He runs down to the end zone and he catches the ball. He thinks he saved the day, right? He looks around. People are booing. The referees are throwing yellow flags. He's like, but I saved the day. Like, no, you violated the rules. If you're the business owner, you're going to let somebody do something.
Mm,
Stop stepping in and catching the ball. Let them run the play. Were you going to lose that game? Yeah. Did you embarrass yourself? No. Did we learn from it? Yes. And it's really hard in that moment to let go.
mm.
But this
That's
is
the
what you
only
got to
way.
do. And you have to realize that this is what's going to happen as a business owner. You win the next game. And over time, things continue. And in the same way, when you look at a football game and I look at the field, there's lines on the field. They tell me where I am, right? We know where the touchdown, we know where the end zone is, right? They don't move the goalposts like you did, keep wanting more, right?
Yeah.
Up in the sky, there's a scoreboard. It's got 4 quarters, just like a year. It's got 4 quarters. Every quarter we know how we're doing. We're measuring what's going on. We're time bound. Remember that thing we talked about with time? We know we've got 15 minutes in this quarter. In life, we've got 3 months in this quarter. What are we doing in this quarter? We're time bound. What's our scoreboard say? How far did we make progress? How does it compare to what we said we were going to do? And so all of these things, if it can work for a game that we're watching just to have fun, why can't it work for your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love
And
that
that's
so
the
much.
key.
No, and like you said, all these things are, behavioral, right? We can say it, but then actually implementing it. Because yeah, I've had issues where it's hard for me to let go. And if there is a loss, I want to go there and catch that ball. I don't want to let it drop and then learn from it. But in order to make progress, you have to take some losses.
You do. And that's
So
okay.
and I also love how you mentioned. I'm sure you read Gap and Gain, the Gap and the Gain
Yeah,
with Dan Sullivan. Yeah, so measuring progress backwards as opposed to focusing on the ideal. And I think that's a lot of things that we all get into as far as like thinking about where we should be, and not appreciating the progress that we have made. So, well, awesome. The last question that I ask every single guest is just one tip if you had to say for doing more with your money. It can be monetary, it can be non-monetary. One tip.
so there's only one reason that I'm wealthy. It's because I automated my finances, right? And so for personal finances, you start a 401k, which I did at 22. I invested in the company stock plan. I opened up a credit union account and they took money out and they put it aside. I opened up a brokerage account. They took money and they put it aside. And every year when I got a raise or I paid off some debt, I upped how much was going into those accounts. So I was having lifestyle creep, but my lifestyle creep was staying behind my income creep. And so it was actually getting wider and wider the older I got. So I
Mm,
was automatically saving more while I was living life more. And so by automating it, you get sick, you have kids, you get busy, it just continues to build wealth. And those same principles are exactly what Profit First is. We automate our profit, we automate our pay, and over time, we increase the amount that we put into profit. We increase the amount we put into pay. And you're guaranteed, like when you find these universal principles, implement and install them, and then you can go watch football all day. It doesn't matter because your money is working for you and it's automated.
I love that so much. Couldn't have said it better myself. And yeah, I think that a lot of people want that get rich quick scheme, and at the end of the day, a lot of it is just, are you disciplined? Are you living below your means? And yeah, as your income increases, if you can save the same percentage or more, right, that's going to set you up for a great path. And the one thing I want to touch on, because I see this a lot on LinkedIn, is you mentioned that you started investing in your 401k at 22, and that was a good long-term investment for you. I see a lot of the 401k as a scam, so I just want to clear that up, that a 401k is not a scam.
Why is it a scam?
People that tend to sell life insurance products, like an index
Mm.
universal life, tend to claim that it is not a good investment.
So I'm going to say this for those of you who are hearing these messages, they are usually packaged around this wording: bank on yourself, correct?
Infinite banking, yeah, be your own
Infinite bank.
bank.
Okay.
Yeah,
Be your own bank. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to be your own bank. And you know what happens when you're in your own bank? You don't hire an insurance company. Okay? You want to be your own bank? Be your own bank. Take your money, keep it, and invest it like the insurance company does. By the way, they invest in real estate, stocks, bonds, all kinds of stuff like that. So go ahead and pretend like you're the bank because you're going to be your own bank, invest like the banks do or whatever, the insurance company in this case, and do that. And one of those things could be a 401k. Is a 401k always your best investment? No, because maybe you've got bad investments in it. Maybe you don't need the tax deduction today. Maybe a Roth IRA is better for you. Maybe after tax savings are better for you because you want the flexibility to walk away from work. You want to start a business. So there's a million things you got to think through. But yeah, figure
Yeah.
out what works for you.
No, I love that so much. Well, Rocky, thank you so much for coming on. I'll link to all of your websites in the show notes, but please, if there's one place that people could connect with you, where is that?
Can I ask them a big favor before they connect with me?
Of course.
There's a like button somewhere on your screen. Did you hit it yet? Like, show a little love to TJ, right? Hit the like button. You got another couple that you're like, oh, you got to hear this. Go ahead and share it with them. Be nice. He's not charging you for this. So show a little love.
Well, I
And
appreciate that.
then if you want to come find me, if you want to learn about business finance, go to profitcomesfirst.com. If you want to live about living the life, then go to richersoul.com. Either one, whatever one works for your interest. Check us out. Everything we also do, we give away.
I love it. Thank you so much, Rocky.
Thanks.